The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, considered by many to be the greatest video game of all time, not just because of its groundbreaking gameplay, but also its captivating music and epic storyline as well. The game is set well after the events of Skyward Sword. The Kingdom of Hyrule had settled into an uneasy peace after years of bloody rebellions and civil war and was entering a period of reconstruction. Growing up in Kokiri Forest, the boy known as Link was an outcast among his peers due to the fact that he did not have his own fairy guardian, which was granted to all Kokiri children by the Great Deku Tree. For this reason, he was often bullied by the other children, particularly one named Mito. The only friend he seemed to have in the village was a young girl named Saria. Time passes on, however, Link begins having unsettling nightmares in which he sees a dark evil figure chasing someone out of a castle. The Great Deku Tree, sensing the darkness on the horizon, summons a fairy named Navi and sends her to Link to serve as his guardian and tells her to bring Link to him. Link heads to meet the Great Deku Tree, who informs him that he, the tree, has been cursed and Link must attempt to defeat the evil inside. Link accepts the challenge and eventually overcomes the evil. Despite Link's aid, the Deku Tree says it is still too late to save him. With his dying breath, the Great Deku Tree tells Link that an evil man from the desert was the one who cursed him. The tree tells Link to head to the castle in Hyrule and meet the princess. After passing along this information, the Great Deku Tree withers and dies, leaving Link shocked. When he returns to the village, Mito accuses Link of killing the Deku Tree. Feeling guilty for not being able to save his father figure, Link is filled with grief. However, he is convicted to honor the Great Deku Tree's dying wish. As he is about to leave the forest, he is met by Saria, who seems to understand that Link always had a bigger purpose than to just stay in the forest. She gives him the fairy ocarina as a way to remember her. Unable to find the right words to say back, Link turns and runs away. On the way to the castle, Link finds a secret passage into the castle and uses it to bypass the guards. He enters the castle courtyard where he meets Zelda, the princess herself. She tells Link that a king from the desert named Ganondorf has come to swear allegiance to the king of Hyrule. However, Zelda believes he is an evil man. She explains the history of the formation of Hyrule by the Golden Goddesses and of the sacred object they left behind called the Triforce. The Triforce grants its power to the person who touches it. Because it is so powerful, the Triforce was hidden away in a place called the Sacred Realm, and only the royal family knows the way to access it. She tells Link to collect the spiritual stones so he may obtain the Master Sword and use it to defeat Ganondorf. Link collects the stones and heads back to the castle. However, as he is about to enter the castle gates, he is stopped as Zelda flees the castle with Impa. She looks behind and tosses the Ocarina of Time to him and speeds away. Not far behind, Ganondorf pursues her. He pauses when he sees Link and asks if he's seen Zelda run past. Link, without hesitation, draws his blade, which amuses Ganondorf, who then mockingly pushes Link down with magic before continuing his chase. Link stares in quiet determination as he watches Ganondorf race away before he himself leaves to continue to the Temple of Time. Upon entering the temple, Link places the spiritual stones on the altar and then watches as the massive door opens up, revealing the Master Sword. Upon taking the sword, Link is thrown forward 7 years into the future. He meets Rauru, the Sage of Light, who informs him that Ganondorf has conquered Hyrule and forced the royal family into hiding. Additionally, Ganondorf made his way into the Sacred Realm and almost obtained the Triforce. However, the Triforce split into 3, with Ganondorf claiming the Triforce of Power for himself. The other parts rested with 2 others, the Triforce of Courage with Link and the Triforce of Wisdom with Zelda. Link finally stumbles out of the Master Sword chamber, now stuck in the body of a 16-year-old. He meets Sheik, who is totally not Princess Zelda in disguise. She explains more about the ancient sages and where to locate them. Link leaves the Temple of Time and enters a world in ruin filled with redeads and other monsters. He heads to the Forest Temple where he meets Saria, his old friend. Once he defeats Phantom Ganon, he awakens Saria and obtains the Forest Medallion. Next, Link heads to Death Mountain and learns that his sworn brother Darunia has went into the depths of the mountain to try to stop Volvagia, the ancient fire serpent. Link finds Darunia, who asks him to save the other Gorons being held prisoner inside. Link frees them and obtains the Megaton Hammer. After saving all the Gorons, Link makes his way into Volvagia's lair. He defeats Volvagia, and in doing so, he awakens Darunia as the Sage of Fire. Following his adventures in the Fire Temple, Link heads to the bottom of Lake Hylia after retrieving the iron boots from the frigid ice caverns. As he makes his way through the various levels, he finally comes to a peaceful room with a single tree standing in the center. As he makes his way toward it, he is attacked by a shadow version of himself. He defeats his inner demon and retrieves the hookshot. After an incredibly long time, Link finds the boss and defeats it. He now awakens his old flame Ruto, the Zora princess, as the Sage of Water. Link continues on his journey, awakening both Impa, the Sage of Shadow, and Naburu, the Sage of Spirit. After collecting all the medallions, he heads for the Temple of Time, where he is totally shocked when Sheik reveals herself to be Princess Zelda. At this same time, Ganondorf reveals that he had been waiting for this moment and imprisons Zelda and takes her away. With the help of the sages, Link is able to bridge the chasm and enter Ganon's castle, where he fights his way to the top of the tower and faces off with Ganondorf. After a brief showdown, Link defeats Ganondorf and frees Zelda. The two escape as the castle collapses around them. They make it outside just as the entire fortress completely crumbles. Link and Zelda celebrate their victory, but it is interrupted by Ganondorf, who has now transformed into the massive monster Ganon using the Triforce of Power. Despite disarming Link's Master Sword, Link pushes him back, allowing Zelda, who up until this point has done nothing, to extinguish some of the flames, allowing Link to get the Master Sword. Link uses it to bring Ganon to his knees. As he delivers a finishing blow, the six sages along with Princess Zelda seal Ganon away. After Ganon is finally sealed away, Zelda apologizes for not being wise despite having the Triforce of Wisdom, and sends Link back in time so he can relive his lost childhood. Back in the Temple of Time, Link returns the Master Sword to its pedestal, but to his shock and horror, Navi, his friend and guide who started him on his journey, departs without so much as saying a word. Despite his confusion and grief from the loss, he sets out with determination to warn Zelda of Ganondorf's treachery, as he is still alive at this point. Link sneaks back into the castle and comes face to face with a young Princess Zelda again. After relaying his knowledge of Ganondorf's plans, the royal family dismisses him and tells him to wait while they decide what to do about Ganondorf. While the royal family contemplates what to do, Link sets out on a new journey in search of Navi, his lost friend. He heads into the forest, and on his way he is ambushed by Skull Kid, who is wearing the mask he stole from the Happy Mask salesman. Ironically, this is the same Skull Kid that Link had taught Saria's song to in the Lost Woods. Skull Kid uses the power of Majora's Mask to transform Link into a Deku Scrub. Link chases the Skull Kid and ends up falling into a parallel world of Termina. Link finds himself inside a massive clock tower where he meets the Happy Mask salesman, who tells Link that he has been met with a terrible fate. He tells Link that if he can get back the Ocarina of Time, the Happy Mask salesman will restore Link to his former self in exchange for the mask that was stolen by the Skull Kid. Despite being a Deku Scrub, Link confronts the Skull Kid on the night of the third day and is able to retrieve the Ocarina of Time. Link returns to the Happy Mask salesman, who tells him of the dangers of Majora's Mask. Despite Link not getting the mask, the salesman heals Link and begs him to find a way to get it back from the Skull Kid. Link agrees and sets out on his own journey across the land of Termina. He begins collecting masks around Clock Town and then heads out towards the southern swamp. Link meets a monkey that was blamed for the kidnapping of the Deku Scrub princess, and then sets off to the Woodfall Temple and defeats the cursed spirit inside the temple. He rescues the princess and then meets with the first giant, who guards one of the four corners of Termina. The giant tells Link to call the others and teaches Link the Oath to Order. As he pursues the remains of the other cursed spirits haunting the corners of Termina, Link ensures he also takes the time to help others and bring peace and happiness to their lives. By putting these weary souls to rest, he is able to gain the Zora and Goron masks, which allow him to overcome obstacles he would not otherwise be able to. Link and Tattle brave the Ikana Canyon and face the dead, where Link is able to heal and reunite a Gibdo researcher and his daughter. Seeing how Link does not fear the dead, multiple spirits inhabiting the cursed land plead with Link to heal their land so the spirits there can rest in peace. After ascending the massive stone tower, Link defeats the Twin Mold and gathers their remains. With the remaining time, Link helps as many people as he can, including saving a ranch from aliens, obtaining the powerful Great Fairy Sword, and forging the Gilded Sword, and helping as many people as he can until the final moments of the last night. When the carnival begins, Link heads up to the top of the clock tower and plays the Oath to Order. This summons the giants who stop the moon from collapsing. However, it is also revealed that the Skull Kid was just being used by the mask to carry out its evil plan. The Skull Kid collapses and the power of the mask possesses the moon. Link heads into the moon where he meets the Moon Children. One of the children sits alone wearing Majora's mask. If Link hands him all of his masks, he will receive the Fierce Deity's form in return. Link heads inside the tree at the center of the field and a battle begins with Majora finally revealing herself. Majora takes on 3 forms, but with the aid of the Fierce Deity, Link easily defeats her. Once defeated, the evil in Majora's mask disappears and the moon dissipates. From the ground, the citizens of Termina celebrate. Back on Termina, Link awakens to see the Skull Kid has now realized the error of his ways. However, he is happy to learn that his friends, the Giants, never forgot about him. Skull Kid then thanks Link and tells Link that he remembers him as the kid who taught him that song in the forest. While Tattle, Tail, and the Skull Kid make amends, the Happy Mask salesman approaches and reminds them that though it is time for their parting, the length of that parting doesn't have to be forever. He asks Link if it's time he should be headed home as well. Link gets on Epona and begins his journey back to Hyrule. The rest of Termina, including the 2 fairies and their friend Skull Kid, decide to join in the celebration at Clocktown. Back in Hyrule, Link picks up right where he left off and sets out through the forest. But first, he commemorates his time in Termina with a carving of himself and his new friend Skull Kid, along with Tattle and Tail on a tree stump as a memorial. When Link returns to Hyrule Field, he is shocked. The entire land has been completely transformed. The old Hyrule Castle is no more, but a newer and bigger version has taken its place. Link heads to the castle to meet with Zelda to find out what has happened. Zelda tells him that because the Hylian royal family had learned of Ganondorf's treachery, they tried to stop him before he could take Hyrule. In order to stop him, the royal family requested the aid of the Zora and Goron tribes, both of which became militarized. They also founded an order of elite knights and set up a base at Snow Peak. What followed were the events that became known as the Hylian Gerudo War, which resulted in the massacre and genocide of the Gerudo people. Ganondorf himself was tried and sentenced to be executed. However, during the execution, he became possessed by the Triforce of Power and broke free of his chains, killing some of the ancient sages. As a last-ditch effort, the remaining sages opened the Mirror of Twilight and forced Ganondorf through it and into the Twilight Realm. Ganondorf would then go on to corrupt the false king Zant, using him as a puppet to help conquer Hyrule. As Link gets older, he settles down with Milan and the 2 of them found Ordon Village. Milan passes down Epona's song to her children, who in turn pass it down to their descendants. Link continues to carry guilt over the fact that he was not able to defeat Ganondorf for good, which led to more suffering and war in Hyrule. To make up for his absence in Hyrule, Link spends the remainder of his days serving the royal family as a mercenary, going so far to protect them that he loses an eye in battle. Towards the end of his life, Link realizes he must put in place a plan to aid a future hero should Ganondorf ever return after he has passed. He gives his green hero's tunic to the light spirit Pharaon, and gives the fairy bow to his sworn brother Darunia. He also asks his friend Skull Kid to aid the future hero in finding the Temple of Time. Finally, with the help of Impa, he crafts the Howling Stones that will allow the future hero to seek him out for guidance. The hero of time finally passes away, holding on to regret and guilt. Not believing he was worthy of the title of hero, he requests to be buried in his original home, the forest. A monument of the tree he was buried under, and a plaque commemorating him as a cursed swordsman, lay in a quiet place in the new Hyrule Castle. Nearly a century passes and Link's descendant, also known as Link, lives in Ordon Village, the same place his ancestor, the Hero of Time, had founded. About this time, Ganondorf decides to finally plot his revenge against the Hylians. He corrupts the mind of Zant, a prominent member of the Twilight, and uses him to take over the Twilight Realm. He gathers the forces of the Twilight and launches a massive assault on Hyrule. The young Link sets out from Ordon Village, beginning a new journey that will eventually lead to the defeat of Ganondorf for good. As the new Link begins his journey, he comes across the specter of a knight dressed in worn but decorative armor who is also missing an eye. The specter initially takes the form of a golden wolf and summons the young Link using stones that were similar to the gossip stones that the Hero of Time had been familiar with. These new stones were activated by playing songs that the Hero of Time had learned throughout his lifetime. The specter refers to himself as Shade. He lets the young Link know that he has been waiting for decades for a new hero to take his place, but none have proven themselves worthy. However, as the young Link masters all the special skills of the hero Shade, Shade tells him that his regrets have been eased and he can finally be at peace because he finally found a hero who had proven himself and was even more proud that the hero was from his own bloodline. The Hero of Time is the true hero of The Legend of Zelda. His selflessness and willingness to put others' needs over his own while sacrificing everything for the good of his home, despite his own feelings of resentment, guilt, and regret, is a testament to his character. The Hero of Time gave up everything he had, all to save Hyrule, and he did so without any acknowledgement or thought of reward. He did it because he was courageous, and he did it because he wanted better for everyone more than he wanted peace for himself.